On August 2nd, 1100, an English king met a violent and mysterious end, remembered today mostly by name. William II, better known as William Rufus, was the third of 4 sons of William the Conqueror. His epithet, Rufus, meaning the red in Latin, likely refers to his red hair. Rufus was struck by an arrow that pierced his chest, injuring his lungs. The suspected archer, Walter Tyrrell, fled to France immediately after the incident. At the time, the death was widely accepted as an accident. However, just 3 days later, William's brother Henry, who had been present at the scene, was crowned king. Given these circumstances, historian Austin Lane Poole's conclusion is hard to dispute. The facts look ugly, suggesting the possibility of a premeditated murder. Dr. Margaret Murray, a scholar whose theories still have some followers, proposed a very different explanation. She believed that Rufus was ritually sacrificed by a pagan cult. Furthermore, the fact that the king never married and had no children has led to speculation that he may have been homosexual or bisexual. These intriguing details alone show that the mysterious death of this fascinating king warrants much more attention. Let's explore it further. William died in the New Forest, likely near Brockenhurst. Notably, this forest had already claimed the life of another family member. Rufus's older brother, Richard, who died there in 1070 in an unexplained hunting accident reportedly caused by an overhanging branch. At the time of William's death, his father, William the Conqueror, had 3 surviving sons to divide his inheritance among. Primogeniture had not yet taken hold in England, so the eldest son, Robert Curthose, inherited Normandy. William, the Conqueror's favourite, became King of England, while the youngest son, Henry, who was politically ambitious, received a financial inheritance. Relations between Robert and William were tense, marked by repeated violent clashes, though neither could fully overpower the other. Eventually, they agreed to name each other as heirs. Feeling secure, Robert left for the First Crusade, entrusting the administration of Normandy to William in exchange for 10,000 marks, an amount that equaled 25% of the English king's annual income. In the summer of 1100, Robert was returning from the Crusades, while Rufus was preparing to invade France. His army was reportedly ready to depart, but first came the fateful hunt. The 6-week deer hunting season had only begun the day before. Our knowledge of these events comes primarily from the chronicler William of Malmesbury, a churchman who was no ally of Rufus. The king had antagonized the church, often leaving bishoprics unfilled to appropriate their income. As a result, he was unpopular with the clergy. The nobility and the common people also reportedly disliked Rufus, despite his military prowess, because his numerous campaigns required heavy taxation. According to Malmesbury, ominous signs foreshadowed Rufus's death. That year, the devil was said to have appeared in the forest, and it allegedly rained blood in Hampstead for 2 weeks. The night before the hunt, William reportedly dreamt that he was bleeding, with blood shooting into the sky and darkening it. A monk supposedly had a similar dream and attempted to warn the king, but Rufus ignored the warning. Rufus, Henry, Walter Tyrrell, and the brothers Gilbert and Robert de Clare, who were related to Tyrrell by marriage, were all part of the hunting party. The group split into 2. Rufus went hunting with Tyrrell, and at one point, the king spotted a deer but only grazed it with his shot. As he prepared to shoot again, he was blinded by the sun and shielded his eyes. Meanwhile, Tyrrell had also located a deer and aimed to shoot, but was similarly hindered by the sun. His arrow struck the king in the chest. Rufus reportedly tried to pull the arrow out, but broke it in the process. Tyrrell allegedly attempted to help, but Rufus had already died, prompting Tyrrell to flee. The other hunters discovered the king's body soon after, but left it and rushed to Winchester. A local charcoal burner named Purkis is said to have later found the body and transported it to Winchester Cathedral. The chronicler Orderic Vitalis adds that Henry first secured the state treasury, also located in Winchester, before his coronation. According to one tradition, William Rufus had specifically selected 6 arrows for the hunt, giving the best to Tyrrell, remarking that the best archer should have the sharpest arrows. The events surrounding William Rufus's death have fueled persistent suspicions of murder. The primary suspect is Henry I, with some theories suggesting that Tyrrell acted under his orders. The de Clare family, who later enjoyed favorable treatment under Henry, might also have been involved. Several points support this theory. First, Henry was under pressure as his brother Robert Curthose was returning from the Crusades. If Henry wanted the crown, William had to die first. The swift coronation, only 3 days after the incident, reinforces this idea. Additionally, Tyrrell's successful escape hints at a premeditated plan, as does the fact that Rufus's body was left in the forest. Another suspect often considered is the French King Philip. Historian Emma Mason, for example, has recently identified him as a possible instigator. In this scenario, Tyrrell did not shoot the fatal arrow. Rather, a Frenchman named Raoul de Quen, allegedly Tyrrell's servant, was responsible. A brief aside. For those who find the name Tyrrell familiar, at least one internet source suggests a possible connection to Sir James Tyrrell, who, according to Thomas More, was involved in the murder of the princes in the Tower. I've linked the page in the description for those interested. Returning to the murder theory, the French had a strong motive to eliminate Rufus, aiming to halt his invasion plans. They likely believed Henry would be less inclined to attack France, and they were proven correct. After William's death, Henry refrained from launching an invasion. This shared interest in William's death led some to speculate that Henry and France may have collaborated. Tyrrell found safe refuge in France, where he was even granted the honor of entertaining King Philip. This privilege has been interpreted as a sign that France might have had some level of involvement in the events. It's important to acknowledge, however, that while murder is a strong possibility, none of the commonly suspected parties may be responsible. As mentioned earlier, Rufus made many enemies, and it's conceivable that someone else seized the opportunity to eliminate him. Now let's examine Murray's theory. She believed that a pagan religion had survived in England and that William Rufus was part of this faith. According to her thesis, a fertility ritual required the sacrifice of a reigning king, or a similarly significant figure, every 7 years. The timing of Rufus's death on August 2nd, 1100, therefore aligned with this ritual, and as per Murray's idea, Rufus died willingly for his beliefs. At first glance, this theory holds a certain appeal. It provides an explanation for his hostility toward Christianity and offers a plausible scenario for what followed. Tyrrell's flight, after witnessing the king's sudden death by pagan hands, seems reasonable. Likewise, the rest of the hunting party's decision to distance themselves from the scene without bothering to transport the king's body fits within this framework. However, the allure of this explanation quickly fades. If this narrative were true, it would have been too tempting for the Christian Church not to exploit, especially against a king they despised. Proponents of Murray's theory argue that the Church deliberately avoided acknowledging such a possibility, as it would have been too embarrassing to admit that a pagan had ruled undetected. Instead, they claim the Church tarnished William's reputation in other ways. But the further removed we are from the event, the less convincing this argument becomes. Moreover, there isn't a single piece of evidence to support this theory. Only Henry and Tyrrell stood to benefit from it, as it would have cleared them of suspicion. Yet even they never suggested such an idea. As intriguing as the concept of a pagan cult might be, we can safely consign this theory to the realm of fables in Rufus's case. The third possibility is that the events unfolded exactly as described at the time. It was simply a hunting accident. Such accidents were common, and Tyrrell's immediate flight makes sense. There was a good chance that no one would believe him if he claimed it was an accident. The fact that this video even exists, discussing the potential for murder at length, is evidence enough of that skepticism. Moreover, we can't be certain we truly know the details of what happened. It's worth noting that our primary chronicler, William of Malmesbury, was hostile to Rufus, as were most other historians of the time. They all wrote with the benefit of hindsight, often years after the event. William, for example, likely began writing at least 20 years later. He may have been only about 5 years old when the king died. His exact birth date is uncertain. Abbot Suger of Saint-Denis, who gave Tyrrell refuge in France for a time, wrote, "A certain nobleman, Walter Tyrrell, was persecuted because he is said to have shot the king with an arrow. But I have often heard him, when he had nothing to fear nor to hope, solemnly swear that he had not been in the part of the forest where the king was hunting on the day in question, nor had he even seen him in the forest." While this is unlikely to be entirely truthful, it demonstrates how much conflicting information circulated about the events. Today, the Rufus stone is said to mark the spot where the incident occurred, though its accuracy is doubtful. When Charles II visited in the 17th century and asked to see the site, he was shown the location where the memorial now stands. The current stone, made of cast iron, was erected in 1841 and bears the following inscription: "Here stood the oak tree on which an arrow shot by Sir Walter Tyrrell at a stag glanced and struck King William II, surnamed Rufus, on the breast, of which he instantly died on the 2nd day of August, anno 1100. That the spot where an event so memorable might not hereafter be forgotten. The enclosed stone was set up by John Lord Delaware, who had seen the tree growing in this place. This stone, having been much mutilated, and the inscriptions on each of its 3 sides defaced, this more durable memorial, with the original inscriptions, was erected in the year 1841 by William Sturgis Bourne Warden. King William II, surnamed Rufus being slain, as before related, was laid in a cart, belonging to one Purkis, and drawn from hence to Winchester and buried in the cathedral church of that city. Whether this marker truly represents the exact location of the event remains uncertain, but it highlights the enduring curiosity surrounding William Rufus's death. For me, the same holds true. I have no definitive proof to conclusively declare William Rufus's death a murder. However, there are simply too many coincidences in this case, coincidences that conveniently benefited some very powerful people. I grew up with the saying, "Too many coincidences are intentional," and based on that, I don't believe it was a mere accident. In my view, it was likely a conspiracy, at least one, that favored Henry I. Unfortunately, we'll never know for certain. I hope you enjoyed this journey back to the High Middle Ages. After all, a bit of variety is always good for this channel. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content.